Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and we've got to watch. Here's more. Yesterday I think I showed you a clip of Jim Rickards, but we've got to focus on this because this BRICS, the BRICS countries and what they're doing and gold have everything to do with why we're all here. Watch this.
Right. But the gold thing I think is interesting because they have been accumulating gold in pretty aggressive fashion. I think it's interesting that you draw this distinction between currency that references gold and a currency that's redeemable in gold, because a lot of the headlines that you read suggest this is a gold-backed currency, which I guess is, clearly something you would disagree with. And you have, do you believe that when they make this announcement on August 22nd or 23rd, they'll make clear that this is a reference and they'll come out with the actual weight, the gold weight, and lay it all out? They'll never work.
They're going to end up with gold. They're repeating Keynes' process, and they're going to have the same result. Which the BRICS, what they've done, this is part of the brilliance, they've opted out of the exchange market. They're like, because normally if the dollar is getting weaker, you're getting stronger. That's bad for exports. It's bad for export-related jobs, et cetera. And this currency wars. That was my first book, Currency Wars. But by defining their currency by weight of gold, not dollar amount, but by weight of gold, they're out of the foreign exchange market. Yeah, so and they can just sit back and watch the show.
Okay, so it's extremely important. I've said this for years on this channel, and I'm going to say it again. I believe that the entire world's financial system is about to change over, and I think there are two things that I own both of, two things that are going to be at the core of that changeover in the financial system. One is gold and one is XRP, and I might throw XLM in there too. I believe that they're going to be a critical part, but you don't have to just take my word for it. But first, I want to show you something, okay? And remind you, don't forget, there's a reason Glint is my gold sponsor. With Glint, I buy gold in my Glint account. I have a debit MasterCard. You may still be able to use this code. If you go up to the top of the description, you'll see Glint, a link for that. And see if you can use this code still to get 50% off vaulting and insurance. But you can literally buy gold. You can go to a restaurant and buy your meal with grams of gold. To me, it's a great hedge. Now, I want to show you this. We're still on Jim Rickards. Oh, before we leave this, I want to show you something. Look in the background of Jim Rickards, where he's sitting right there. This person says, notice the picture behind him. Multiple black swans. That's interesting. Now, last night, Mr. Intuitive, who is the official cool guy of the Digital Asset Investor channel and does run his own Twitter Spaces, he is a serial Twitter Spaces guy now. He ran one last night, and they had this guy, Andy Scheckman, also had Rob Cunningham, a friend on there. I want to play you the first 2 minutes because he talks in this 2 minutes about what's going on with BRICS and who Jim Rickards is. It's important you understand who Jim Rickards is.
Basically, what he said is, now you have to understand James Rickards. Not only is he a best-selling author, like his book Currency Wars, I think he's written 4 or 5 that are all best-selling books, but he was employed by the CIA for financial war games. And they would bring him in and they would say, we're going to do some simulations and we need you to tell us where we're vulnerable, how we could be beat by a foreign entity financially without lobbing bombs. How can they destroy us financially? So his background, the way he looks at things is in this respect. And what he said to me was very intriguing. He says, what I believe that they will do is they will issue new BRIC currency, and each BRIC currency will be worth 1 ounce of gold. And he says, if they do that, they will allow the West to destroy themselves and they don't have to do a damn thing. I said, well, what do you mean by that, Jim? He says, well, if you realize that the West is drowning in debt, almost $200 trillion in debt, with a very small asset base. How can they ever pay that off? The only way to pay it off is what all politicians have done. And to Rob's point, trimming the edges of coins. That's why you have ridges on the edges of coins right now, because back in the Roman times, they would trim the coins to pay their soldiers because they were running out of money. Policing the world kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So they would trim the edges of the coins to save a little here and there and be able to pay more soldiers. Well, that didn't go over very well, and that is why you have ridges on the coins. But he said, if the West inflates, the dollar drops, gold goes up, the BRICS win. If the West tries to do what the rest of the world is doing and accumulate gold, the dollar drops, gold goes up, the BRICS win. He said all they have to do, and I suspect they will, is to peg each BRIC currency redeemable, he says, to the governments. Now, I don't know about the people. The governments could redeem it in gold, and you win. And so that was the other thing that I took away from it.
All right, just wanted to play that part. The full 6 minutes and 35 seconds is worth hearing. Now, you just heard who Jim Rickards is. You saw what he said about gold and the BRICS. But have you seen this tweet? This is from back in October 2018. People are saying it's not my idea of reliable source. That said, even the IMF needs devs, and I'm sure Ripple has some good ones. That doesn't mean XRP will be a reserve asset. More likely, it's an ESDR, folks. This guy who is with that three-letter agency that we don't talk about on this channel, for him to even say XRP and ESDR in the same sentence, do you know what that means, folks? There's a reason we've all been fixated on this company and this digital asset for all this time. Does it not feel like we are experiencing digital war games every day when you wake up, watching all the government come after this and all this different stuff? It's obviously war games, folks. This is for all the marbles. Eleanor Tarrant yesterday, new Judge Torres says court will seek to schedule a jury trial for the SEC Ripple case in the second quarter. Torres has ordered both parties to submit blackout dates for trial by Wednesday. Then we've got Jeremy Hogan weighing in. The individual defendant's trial will begin around May 2024. That means final judgment in this case won't be entered until late summer 2024. At the earliest, any appeal would go well into 2025. The glove, I think he meant the shoe is on the other foot now. Delays are good for XRP and Ripple. Now, I'm going to get to there was another thing about the interlocutory appeal. I'll get to that in a second. First, I wanted to show you this Bruce Fenton guy who's walking out in front of the SEC.
I'm here in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission to call for the resignation of Chairman Gary Gensler. This is my industry. I've been in this industry my entire life. I grew up on the floor of a brokerage firm. I got my first job at 14 at a major Wall Street firm. I got licensed at age 19, and I've been licensed ever since for over 30 years with a flawless compliance record, working with broker-dealers and registered with the SEC. It is absolutely crucial that the United States markets maintain its place as a respected global market, free from fraud and bad actors. Mr. Gensler, your chairmanship and your behavior does not jive with those goals and does not help the United States markets. I'm calling on you to resign for many reasons. The ties with Sam Bankman-Fried and your agency overseeing the largest fraud since Bernie Madoff is reason alone for you to resign.
That's all I'm going to show of you because that's the fact, Jack. He's right about that. But there's so many more things that he could go through. Now, here it is. James Phelan breaking. SEC files letter outlining its basis for filing a motion for leave to file an interlocutory appeal regarding the programmatic offers and sales to XRP buyers over trading platforms and Ripple's other distributions. Jeremy Hogan points this out. It's important. And the SEC continues to making questionable decisions, they're not appealing, they're requesting an interlocutory appeal, folks. And then he also says, note that it is not appealing whether XRP itself is a security. That's not even being appealed. It's been decided that XRP itself is not a security. They're not even trying to appeal that. Just its losses on programmatic and individual sales issues. Ashley Prosper says the biggest joke from the SEC's letter of intent to file an interlocutory appeal is right here. The SEC seeks expedient and efficient ultimate resolution of this litigation and thus proposed a briefing schedule that will permit the court to swiftly rule on this proposed motion. So now, all of a sudden, this agency, who does not have a faithful allegiance to the law, they have a faithful allegiance to themselves, from where I can tell, and the chairman, Gensler. But they're basically now all of a sudden they want to speed things up. They drug this thing out for almost 3 years when they're supposed to protect investors. They drug it out for almost 3 years while they knew they were hurting XRP holders. Now they're wanting to drag it out some more. Stuart Alderati weighed in, the SEC does not have the right to appeal just yet, which is why they are asking permission to file an interlocutory appeal. Ripple will file its response with the court next week. Stay tuned. And then this is John Deaton's firm, and they're basically telling you how this will work. The SEC says it intends to seek this appeal. Judge Torres' ruling on the programmatic sales and other sales XRP failed. Then Judge Torres and the Second Circuit both have to agree with the SEC's arguments, and they have to grant this appeal. If the interlocutory appeal request from the SEC is ultimately not granted, then the SEC will have to wait until after the trial and remedies phases to attempt its appeal. So they say that this isn't even an appeal that normally is granted. Now, let's talk about what all this is really about. See, this is what's not being talked about. We've seen all the legal pundits. They're coming out of the woodwork. In fact, I'll show you one of them right here. All the legal pundits have been coming out of the woodwork to talk about how scary this is for Ripple and XRP and how this affects XRP and all this. But what none of them will talk about is how this affects Ethereum, and how this affects consensus, and how this affects those disguised whales, and how this affects those sales from Vitalik Buterin and the Ethereum Foundation of Ethereum, and Mike Novogratz. None of them are talking about those, and how it affects the sales from the creation of all the tokens that Token Foundry, which was a consensus company, and then the website's deleted. All of those sales to VCs and all kinds of people. And you know why they don't talk about it? Because by this ruling, much of that stuff are illegal security sales, and those people have a target on their back now. That's why everybody's freaking out. That's why these appeals are going. That's why they're trying to get an emergency interlocutory appeal. This is to protect Bitcoin and Ethereum, or Ethereum in this case. But this guy right here is James Seifert. Maybe I think his name's, I'm going to go with Seifert. James Seifert. He says, he comes on Thinking Crypto and he says this, and I tagged on the end of it, the Vitalik Buterin, where he's doing his fundraiser, just to bring it to Seifert's attention.
It's going to shift and let kind of Bitcoin and Ethereum be their own thing, and then really go after everything else. And we'll see how that goes. Obviously, it didn't go great with Ripple. And if you ask me, I would have said Ripple, if anything is a security, Ripple's about as close as it gets. Like a lot of the other cryptos have less security-like characteristics than Ripple does.
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about the funding model. So we will have a fundraiser for 2 months starting February 1st. It will be available at funds.ethereum.org. So the idea is that part of the initial issuance will be one 1,000 Ether for 1 Bitcoin, or up to 2,000 Ether for 1 Bitcoin if you get in early to compensate for the increased risk. So the issuance model is that we will fundraise, suppose that we hand out X Ether through the fundraiser, then there will be about 0.5x will be pre-mined, and then 0.4x after that will be mined per year forever. So it's this hybrid of the Mastercoin and Ripple model and the pure Bitcoin mining model.
So I corrected Seifert and said if anything is a security issuance, the Ethereum ICO was. But it's important you understand this, folks. If you've been paying attention, look, if this was about the law and about securities law, the guys that issued Ethereum would be either under investigation, they would be in a lawsuit by now with the SEC, but they likely could be headed to prison, many of them, if this was about the law. It's not about the law. What this is about, and always has been about, is trying to create a monopoly for Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's been coordinated with government, crypto pundits, media, traditional media, and on and on and on. This guy and his whole team of legal analysts, the Seifert guy, his whole team of legal analysts didn't miss this. They pretend not to see it, that we are somehow, or that we are somehow past it. And don't get me started on the disguised whales, money laundering question mark. I wonder why none of these legal minds that constantly weigh in on XRP's legal status have never commented on the Ethereum fundraising videos or Joseph Lubin's disguised whales video. Here's that. I'm not going to play it again. You've heard it 1,000 times. This is what this is really about, folks. And also this. Remember this one with Brad Garlinghouse, where Joseph Lubin's trying to criticize Brad Garlinghouse, and Brad Garlinghouse says, well, we're completely transparent in who owns what XRP and the holdings of it. And Joseph Lubin says, well, we practice internal transparency. What? Some of the things this guy has said over the course of the videos we found and some of the stuff we've seen the last couple of years, my 11-year-old would have been smarter than to say these things. But this is what it's about. Nobody, have you seen anybody point it, besides me and one or two other people in maybe the XRP community, you haven't seen anybody point to them. Here you go, look at Chad Steingraber, or Grabber. It's not a secret that to those that know, a black ops program created Bitcoin. You think some random dude in his bathrobe did this? They began a test. Then they created the one, OpenCoin. This is how you change the world. Secret. Shh. Yes, it was taken later. It was taken later to create Bitcoin as a prototype by a black ops group, a group of people. It was a test. Then OpenCoin was created as the one. I think that's what I've called it. Look, Panda Ripple XRP found that it looks like Gemini has got XRP on the platform. It's not trading yet, but he's showing you that it's there, and it's never been there before, folks. This is big. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that this whole business is about protecting. They don't want anybody going anywhere near these secrets of knowing who Satoshi is and the secrets of those disguised whales. Those disguised, to put this in I'm not an attorney, but I want you to just think about this for a minute. With that Ripple ruling, think about all of the plaintiff attorneys that are out there. Ripple, remember when Ripple got sued? You remember when Ripple got sued over some guy losing $300? Okay? Think about the plaintiff attorneys out there that are looking at this Ripple ruling and they're saying, well, wait a minute now. Joseph Lubin said it himself. They made tens of billions of dollars issuing tokens. He said it. I showed the video a week or two ago. Tens of billions of dollars. Think about the plaintiff attorneys out there that are sitting on the sidelines and saying, okay, so these guys were issuing illegal securities tokens to the public to the tune of tens of billions, and some of these VCs were buying them. They were buying the tokens. They were when they were investing in some of these companies, they're saying, we're going to take some equity and we're going to take some tokens that are illegal security tokens, folks. Do you know what the liability and the freaking exposure is for all those people? It's unbelievable. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Lubin. Thanks for listening.